Hey guys, sitting here with my good friend Kyle Burton. We go back a few years now, man, and I'm super pumped you're able to hop on, dude. It's been a long time coming, dude. So I appreciate you hopping on the podcast, dude, and taking time to sit down with me.
Thanks, dude. Good to be here.
Yeah, man. So sweet, dude. So Kyle is somebody that I 100% respect. I've learned to get him know on a personal level as well as a successful level as well. Understanding a little bit of his grind, and everything that that he kind of does, and his success that he's drawn from it. So Kyle, I want to kind of get let people get to know who you are as a person, kind of things you've gone through, and kind of the successes that you've achieved so far, and the stuff that you're chasing as well. So we'll just dive right into everything, man. So I want to kind of talk about your childhood upbringing. How was your upbringing? Do you feel like you had a normal upbringing? Did you have a lot of, say, some childhood traumas, things that you had to battle? Kind of how was the way that you were brought up, and also where were you brought up?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's I would say I did not have the traditional upbringing, and I would say that I had every excuse in the world why I shouldn't succeed in life. So to make a really long story short, my parents got divorced when I was 11 days old. My dad decided to make some life choices that probably were not the most respectable. And unfortunately, he overdosed because of drugs when I was 12 years old. And so growing up, I did not have the traditional childhood of a mom and dad in the home. My mom is Superman and Superwoman to me. And she really instilled in me that success is not given, success is earned. And frankly, success is a mindset, and it starts with the story that we tell ourselves up here first. And, there's always going to be trials and limitations that come that we can use as an excuse as to why we shouldn't succeed in life. But my mom taught me at a young age, she said, you can't control other people's decisions. You can't control what happens around you, but you can control how you show up every single day. And so having that mindset from a very young age, I would say is the reason why we've accomplished what we've accomplished today, is because of that childhood. And people ask me like, hey, if you could go back, would you change a thing? And the answer is no, because in my opinion, I wouldn't be the man, the husband, the father, the friend, the advisor, the business owner, the mentor, the coach that I am today if I didn't go through those things. So I am grateful for those trials because frankly, they've shaped me into who I am today.
Yeah, man, that's a great outlook to have, and I want to dive deep into a couple things that you said as a child. So obviously, your parents got divorced when you were literally a baby. You don't remember. Now, before your dad overdosed, was he still part of your family, or were you mainly just raised by your mom?
So because of the decisions that he made, the only time I could see my dad was in public places on the racetrack. So my family owned a racing team. We raced legend cars at Rocky Mountain Raceway. So Brad, you and I share a mutual love for cars, and that's why, is because every time I saw my dad, it was around cars at a racetrack. But I was raised by my mom. Yep,
Okay,
raised by my mom.
awesome, man. And so then, when you were 12 years old, and this tragic event happened in your life, man, how did that affect you as a 12-year-old boy? I mean, you're just a young kid, man, getting into just becoming from a boy starting to develop. What effects did that have on you personally?
Yeah, it's it's nothing that they teach you in school how to prepare for. There's not really a Dr. Seuss book that gets you ready for those kind of events. And so reflecting back on that, I don't think I knew how to react. And it took a long time to fully digest, even over the past few years, and learn how to forgive and move on and to really come to terms and grips with the situation that happened. And so when I remember it was December 7th, I was sitting under the Christmas tree, got home from school, getting ready to go have a snowball fight, excited to go play with my friends. And the phone rang. And obviously back then we didn't have cell phones. And so the landline rang, and my mom picked it up. And in the moment she picked up the phone, within the first 30 seconds, I could just feel that something was wrong. And my mom was remarried at that point. And so when my stepdad got home from work, they had sat me down on the couch and kind of shared the news as to what had happened. Um, and I think it just takes a lot of time to process. And I think a lot of times as humans, we are very quick to push trials and tribulations and struggles under the rug and thinking that we're weak when we go through those things. But the reality is we learn to face those challenges head on and learn to forgive. Frankly, I think it strengthens us as individuals. But yeah, man, I mean, nothing that you could prepare a 12-year-old to go through. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm sorry to hear that, man. But going on from that, 12 years old, you had this, this tragic event happen to your life, and you're a kid, man. And I feel like there's a lot of people out there that have tragedies and hard times that happen to them at a young age that actually affect them in a negative way. Did you ever start acting out, in a negative way because of this? Did you start getting involved with people you shouldn't have been involved? Did you start making decisions that probably weren't the best decisions? How did you react as far as, as far as your actions?
Yeah, I'll never forget. My mom sat me down. This is um, probably a month after the funeral and things had settled with the holidays and all that. Because remember, this happened in December, so not only did we have a funeral, we had Christmas and all that. And so once the dust had kind of settled, she sat down and said, "Hey, you have an option here. You have a choice. You can either let this be an excuse as to why you don't succeed, or you can use this as a catalyst as to why you will succeed." And so in that moment, because of the guidance of my mother, I made the conscious decision. And it's not that I was perfect, but I made the decision that I wasn't going to let this be an excuse to act up because, my dad's side of the family, had a lot of trials and tribulations. And so I saw firsthand how people would let those things become an excuse as to why it was a pity me party. And I never wanted to be on that train. So, for better or for worse, I witnessed what I didn't want to have happen in life because I saw how other people were behaving when those kind of trials came into their lives.
Yeah, no, dude, I love that. I love that your mom, is your superman, superwoman, but she sat you down and she said, "Hey, look, you have an option here, right? You have a choice." Because I believe we all have a choice, no matter what we're dealt with, right? We don't
Yep.
choose the hand that we're dealt with, but we choose how we play that hand. But I love, man, that she was your mentor because I believe even all throughout life, right? Like you're my financial coach, you're my guy, right? You're also my friend, but we need to be there for people because we are going to be the reason why people are able to stay on the right path, right? To stay, hey, this shitty thing happened to you, man, and it's terrible, it's not okay, but you do have a choice. They can make you or it can break you. And I think, man, in the position that I'm at, coaching, young men and men to learn how to sell and learn how to be successful in this industry, it's amazing to see that because, dude, we want everyone to succeed. And so, dude, that's so awesome, man, that you're able to one, have a mentor like that, and two, make that decision at 12 years old, like, nope, I'm gonna be somebody. And so from 12, let's go from 12 to 18. What things did you start doing um, to fuel that kind of success? Did you start getting jobs? Did you start making money? What started, what actions did you take place from 12 to 18?
Yeah. Yeah. So, growing up, as amazing as my mom was, being a single mom, she did her absolute best to not put me in daycare and to be as present as she could. And so what that meant is she had to sacrifice a lot. And in that sacrifice, even though she had an amazing career, there wasn't a lot of financial upward mobility. I if I recall correctly, and I'm sure she'll watch this and tell me I'm wrong, but I believe at one point, when we were growing up, she was making around $17,000 to $20,000 a year. And so she taught me from a young age, number one, how to manage money very appropriately. Even though we weren't upper class or even middle class, I never felt that we were lower class. I always felt that we were incredibly blessed. And she taught me how to appreciate what you have, and how to work for that. But one of the things that she taught me is she said, "Hey, you have the opportunity to alter the trajectory of your last name." And that's why I do what I do every day. And so, with my three kiddos and my wife, the last name that they carry every day, I want that to be something that they're proud of. And so when I was 11 years old, my mom had told me, because my dad didn't have the financial abilities before he passed away to help in any way. And with my mom's limited income, she said, hey, if you want to go to college, if you want to, serve a church mission, you want to accomplish things and buy homes, you're going to have to really build your own financial success. And so at 11 years old, back in what was that, 2000, early 2000s, free child slave labor wasn't really a popular thing in Utah. And
Yeah.
so my options were, number one, to do newspaper route. And for those that know me well, know that I'm not the biggest morning person. So waking up at 4 a.m. to deliver newspapers was not on my agenda. And then the other option was to mow lawns. And so I actually started a landscaping company at 11 years old, and we grew that from 11 years old until when I sold it when I was 21 to a large organization here in Utah. But I started that because I knew that I needed to be self-made financially if I wanted to accomplish the goals and the things, and again, alter that trajectory of my last name.
Yeah, man, dude, that's freaking awesome, dude. So I want to dive into your business that you created at 11 years old, man. I think that's fire, dude. I always hustled, man. You know what I'm saying? I started doing door-to-door sales at 14 because I wanted to
Yeah.
start making money, and I understand where you're coming from that. Now, let's talk about the business you built from 11 to 21. Let's talk about how big you're able to build it, because I mean, dude, this is a win. You know what I'm saying? We don't talk a lot about, us successful people. We don't really acknowledge our wins too much. It's just kind of like, okay, on to the next, on to the next. But it's a pretty big thing, man, that set you into the path of where you're at today. So let's talk about how big you were able to build this in 10 years, just from as an 11-year-old kid freaking mowing lawns.
Yeah. So it started off, I'll never forget. So my grandparents owned an auctioning company up in Idaho. And my grandpa came home from school one day. I got off the bus and he was sitting there in the driveway, and he had a used weed whacker, a used lawnmower, and at home we had one of those. You remember those the Red Baron, or the red, I can't remember the brand, but the little red wagons that we had as
Yeah,
kids, and
yeah,
we'd
yeah,
like
yeah.
risk our lives every day going down the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And so he bought me those, the used lawnmower and the used trimmer. And I remember I'd put them in the back of the wagon. So with one hand, I'd be pushing the lawnmower. The other hand, I'd be pulling the wagon, and I'd go door to door in the neighborhood, just knocking, saying, hey, can I mow your lawn? And I, point down and say, hey, I took care of their lawn. It looks really, really good. Cause I take pride in what I do. And so I was
Yeah.
really proud of, and honestly, I mow my lawn to this day because it's just, something I take pride in. And so started just knocking door to door and just getting clientele and setting them up on a weekly mowing program. And I remember as a kid, and some of my most vivid memories was my mom and I would drive around, and we went to Walmart and bought a little Brinks black piggy bank. So it's like one of those that had a key on top, and you'd open it up and it had a slot for the dollars and the coins, and it had a little deposit book. So the end of the month, we'd go by all my clientele, and I'd go knock on the door, and they'd pay me. They'd pay me, they'd pay me, they'd pay me. And my favorite thing to this day is my mom and I would go grab fast food. We'd go to the house and we'd balance the checkbook. And she taught me to save 50% of my income. So I would take, let's say I made $1,000 in that month. I'd save 500 of it, and then we would go through and do accounts receivable and balance the checkbook all the way down. And I started doing that at 11 years old. And so it's not that, I had business mentors. It's not that I had read a book on growing a business. It was just, I know I wanted to make money. I've always been fascinated with what money can provide. You think about it, this paper currency can provide a lifestyle. It can feed families. It can provide shelter, homes. You can open up incredible businesses like Tier One. You can, with what you built with Tier One, through the money that they make, they're able to create memories with their families, and it's multi-generational. So I've always just had this fascination with money. Hence why I do what I do now. But there was no blueprint to building this business, Brad. It was just a hustle and a grind, and how many lawns can I mow? And I was that kid where it was like, I missed parties. I missed, for example, I didn't do the high school football team, even though the coach wanted me to, because I was like, hey, I got to mow lawns in the summer.
Yeah.
And that taught me a lot of just like keeping your priorities straight and what grit and enduring means. But we built the company to where we had, 7 employees. We had a landscaping division and a lawn care division. I worked 2 days a week. My biggest skiing season, because I know you and I ski a ton when you're here in Utah, was 78 times. And so, I kind of, in my opinion, I had it made. I was an 18, 20-year-old before I went on a mission, and I was working 2 days a week, had $20,000, $30,000 in the bank as an 18, 20-year-old. And I felt very proud of what we had built. But yeah, looking back, there was no blueprint. It was day to day, just grinding, mowing lawns, planting trees, and hauling in mulch.
Yeah. No, dude, that's freaking sick, man. It gets me pumped, dude. It's like, realize 11-year-old kid, because I started young, right? Hustling, making money. And dude, started selling, getting in door to door, understanding how to grind and dude, just work your butt off, work your butt off. And one of my traumas that I really like, have is I love sports, right? And dude, I always wanted to play football and we could never afford it. Well, I got into high school and I wanted to play football, but I knew I couldn't play football because I couldn't make summer practices because I had to sell door to door to pay for everything else, right? I paid for the vehicles I drove, I paid for the gas, I paid for the food, I paid for all my other sports. But looking back, man, those trials or those sacrifices is why we're sitting in the seats that we're in today. And so, dude, so if I'm getting too personal, maybe it's okay. But how much did you sell your company for at the age of 21?
We were able to bring in just a mid six-figure valuation. So with service-based companies, especially with lawn care, you can't get high multiples because it's a service-based company.
Yep.
And so what we did is when I left on my mission, I served in the Philippines. Almost died there 3 times, by the way. But I had a really good friend who owned a rockscapes company. So they do like the rock waterfalls, and he,
Yep.
we moved to a different neighborhood when my mom got remarried when I was 16, and he was one of the guys in our neighborhood. And I always just like, he drove the Range Rover. He had a cool sports car, and I was like, I want to be like that guy. And so, at a young age, I just tried to hitch my wagon onto people that I wanted to be like. And it was a huge blessing for me because when I went on my mission, he said, hey, I'm going to run your company while you're gone. He said, I'll take obviously the expenses out of the company for what it cost me to run it, but I won't take any profit. I'll build it all up in an account for you. And when you get back, it's all yours. And so my company didn't stop for the 2 years that I was gone. And when I came back, I just had this feeling of like I had plateaued. And it was like, how many more lawns can I really mow? How many more trees can I really go plant? And I knew that there was something more. And so I didn't know what that was at the time, but I knew that I was going to sell. So I started to position the company by building in contracts with clients, getting larger landscaping jobs. And so when we did sell, we started conversations with the individual that bought us. They're a company out of Salt Lake City in May, and we sold the company officially in January because we did kind of like a 6 to 7 month transition plan so that there was no attrition with clientele. So,
Dude, that's freaking awesome, dude. It's a sick story to hear, man. And obviously it didn't stop there. Like, dude, I know a little bit about what you do, but I can't wait to dive into it. But man, dude, that was freaking awesome. But I want to dive into, your mission. Now, a lot of people don't know what a mission is, for 2 years, for the church. But you went to the Philippines, bro, which I've never been there. I've been to Vietnam. I've been to some other countries, but bro, let's talk about that, man. Like, let's talk about some crazy experiences you had there, shit you learned there, things that helped you apply, to where you're at today.
yeah. So, I never had plans to go serve a mission or anything like that. It just one day hit me that it seemed like something that'd be a good idea, and I learned a lot, which I did, which I'm incredibly grateful for. So to condense 2 years into 5-10 minutes here, I got called to an area in the Philippines is tiered by regions, and so Region 8 is where I was called. It's a city called Tacloban, and Region 8, that is the lowest poverty level in the Philippines. So I went to literally the poorest region of the Philippines. And when I got my mission call, they assign you a foreign language that you're going to learn in a training center in Provo, Utah. And it was called Cebuano. I didn't even speak that language until the last 3 months of my mission. So I get to the training center. I have tons of anxiety. I'm like, what am I doing here? This is a huge mistake. The only time I had been away from home is I worked in Washington, D.C. as a Senate page with the president and with the local senators. And, that was more of an adventure and a party, and I knew it was short term. And so I didn't really get homesick. But, being away, I was like, okay, this is a mistake. And there was multiple times I'm like, yep, I'm not doing this. I'm coming home, coming home. And, coming back to my mom, she's like, what's the worst that happens? She's like, if you get to the Philippines and hate it, she's like, just get on a plane, come home, we'll book your flight, whatever you need to do. So I was like, all right, let's just get there. So I remember landing in the Philippines, getting in this like falling apart Jeep. They call them jeepneys. Think of like a school bus where they saw the back off, and then you just like they've fabricated steps going up the back, and it doesn't fully stop. It just kind of rolls through the bus stop, and you run and jump on. So it's super ghetto. And I remember looking out the window, and I was like, "What am I doing here?" I was like, "This is a mistake." I was like, "I'm not going to make it home." I had hair at the time, don't anymore, so I blame the Philippines for that. But it was rough, but I learned to love it. And I learned to love the people. And I got to the Philippines in July of 2013, November 8th of 2013, the largest hurricane to ever cross the face of the earth. I believe it was 2.5, 3 times the size of Katrina had hit the Philippines. And so I was on a little island called Biliran, and it was probably the circumference. I mean, we could get around the island in a day.
Okay.
And so it was huge. Maybe half the size of Maui in Hawaii. But we were stranded on an island. And in the Philippines, hurricanes are the equivalent of snowstorms in Utah. What I mean by that is in Utah, we get 2 feet of snow. School starts on time. The bus is there to pick up my kids. There's no trepidation. There's no hesitation. It's just normal. But when New York City or Boston gets, a foot of snow, the whole city shuts down because they're not adequately prepared for that type of snowstorm. Well, the Philippines, they get, I believe, 30 to 40 hurricanes a year, and they're normally pretty mild. And so my mission companion was a Filipino, and he said, he's like, don't worry about it. He's like, we get these all the time. This is normal. So I'll never forget November 7th, that night, I believe it was a Wednesday. It was perfectly calm. There was no wind, which was weird being on an island next to the ocean, but there's no wind, perfect temperature. It was kind of eerie how calm it was. And at about 3:34 in the morning, it sounded like a freight train was right outside our door. And I've got videos, I'll have to send them to you, but with my camera, I was like, what in the world's going on? And the homes in the Philippines, they're either made, number one, of cinder block with aluminum roofs, or number two, made of coconut or bamboo trees. So you think about, pictures you see back in the 40s, the 50s of these coconut homes. That's how people live in Region 8 in the Philippines. And they're the happiest but most humble people. And we just saw homes getting destroyed and villages blowing away and storm surges. I mean, unfortunately, the deaths and the calamities were catastrophic there, and they're still recovering from those things. But when you're in those moments, you don't feel emotion. You talk about fight or flight, and I don't think a lot of people have actually experienced what fight or flight is. Your mind just kind of takes over on a very, for me, logical basis on how do we survive, because we were stranded on the island. We had no food because they don't have refrigeration. And, because hurricanes are so normal, we got notice that there was a hurricane coming, but, our mission leaders, and no fault to them, they were just like, hey, just stay in your house. And when it's gone, you can go back out. Like, no need to prepare, no need to get extra food or, crackers or anything like that. And so when the storm hit, and we went outside and saw the damage, we knew that this was serious. And so, me being a former Eagle Scout, my stepdad took me on a lot of camping adventures, kind of that survival instinct kicked in to where we just started scouting the island for the other missionaries, making sure, number one, everyone was alive and everyone was accounted for, and bringing them all to a centralized location. So my companion and I started traveling the island, finding the missionaries there and bringing them to the main city, to where when we had transport come in, because the bridge that we were on was partially tarnished and destroyed. So there was no really access to getting off the island at that point. And there was so much debris from all the palm trees and the coconut trees that we couldn't get out. So we traveled around, got all the missionaries centralized, and it just turned into like, well, we're either going to survive or we're either going to die, but we're not going to sit here and cry about it. We're going to go help those around us. And so we went down to the local church and we said, hey, which families need help? And I had this feeling to leave a note on our door. And it's cool. I actually still have that note today, where I wrote, the area that we'd be in on the island and what time we would be back, because the one cell phone tower that was on that island was blown away. So no cell service. So I wrote that note there. And, this is about a week after the storm had hit. No communication. Again, thought we were just going to die there. There was a family that had a baby recently, and a guava tree had fallen on their home. And so we went up. We traveled probably 4 miles ish up into the jungle. They call it the Bukid in the Philippines. And we started rebuilding their home. We started chopping down trees and just giving them some sort of sanctuary to where they could feel safe and have a roof over their head with their new baby. And I'll never forget, a bunch of Filipinos come running up and they're like, Elder Burton, Elder Burton, Elder Burton, there's white people looking for you. And I was like, well, what in the world does that mean? And so we, ran back down to our apartment, and there was an extraction team that was there to meet us. And so they extracted us out of a city called Ormoc, and we were able to catch a ferry and go down to a town called Cebu, where we were extracted via airplane up to Manila. And me, it's hard to see on camera. I'm 6'5". I'm normally 250. I weighed 170 pounds. And so I was put in a rehab center to just get nutrition back up and food and vitals and all that. And then I was reassigned to the city of Manila until our mission was safe to go back in. And then I was reassigned with a group of other missionaries to reopen and establish the mission where it was safe. So really, it was not your traditional church mission. It was a lot of recon and helping the community to get back up on their feet.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And that's crazy, dude. You think about like life, man. And when we think about like life experiences that we go through, near death experiences, or just tragic stuff, man. But, I think, we have in common just the thought, gratitude, right? When you're grateful for stuff you go through, it allows you to become who we are today, man. So that's insane, man, to go through that and experience those things, man, that majority of people can't, can't explain that. Dude, I have no idea what it's like to be in a hurricane like that and be in an island being trapped. And so that's insane, man. So you go on this mission, you have your experiences, your ups, your downs, you're in a whole different country you're there for 2 years. You come home, you continue your business, you end up selling your business. Now, what happens after you sell your business? You know what I'm saying? You got triple figures that you sell it for. What is kind of your thought process and your next move that you make?
Yeah, so I knew, because no one in my family had gotten a bachelor's degree, I knew I wanted to be the first to do that. I had no idea what I was going to do with it, because frankly, I was making more money as a high school student mowing lawns than a lot of my stepdad's friends in a professional level. But I just felt that it was important. And I felt that, when I had kids, because I didn't have kids at the time, obviously, when I had kids, I wanted to tell them, like, hey, like, you can do hard things. Like, you don't have to do the norm. You don't have to do what everyone else is doing. Stay true to yourself and be confident in that. And so I knew I just wanted to check the box at least. So I got my degree in business at Weber State. And I was in a math class, and there was an individual that came up to me. And quick backstory. So this individual had interviewed at a local financial planning firm in town. And when he had interviewed, the managing director who had interviewed him had said, hey, do you know any business owners that could be good at this career? And he said, there's a guy in my math class that owns a landscaping company. He always wears stained green Crocs, because that was my shoe of choice mowing lawns. And he's like, he always smells like gasoline, but I'll ask him. For some reason, I think he would like doing this. And so I didn't even know this guy's name. So think of the courage of this individual and the divine intervention and intuition that he had. So he walks up to me after math class and he goes, hey, this is a really weird question. He goes, I interviewed at a financial planning firm and I thought of you. Can I give him your name and number? And I was like, that is so, like, am I about to be smuggled? Like, is this a scam? Like, what's about to happen? Is my identity's, compromised? So I gave my name and number, because I was like, okay, this is weird enough to where there's got to be something there. And so long story short, this financial planning firm called me and said, hey, like, we were referred by you. Would you be open to exploring an opportunity? And I've just always been of the opinion that you should, walk into doors that open to you. That doesn't mean that you need to stay there, but at least walk in to know, what the opportunity is. And if you decide to leave, you can do so in confidence. But I never wanted to have that like, what if question in my mind of like, well, what if I would have done this? What if I would have talked to this person or whatever it may have been? So I was like, what's the worst that happens? I go to an interview and I find I don't like it. Great. I can close the door in confidence and know that that's not the thing for me. So I'll never forget, we had just got done. We planted a bunch of flowering pear trees at a movie theater in Centerville. And they had called me for that first interview. So I'm driving in my old GMC truck. I got my whole trailer and my equipment. I got my manager in the passenger seat with me and my whole crew is behind me in the other vehicles. And I have my first interview with this financial planning company. And for me, I had written down on a piece of paper, like what I had wanted in a career, because again, at that point, I knew that landscaping wasn't the end all be all for me. And so for me, number one, I wanted autonomy. I wanted to be in a position because I have always been a business owner and my wife doesn't like this about me, but I hate being told what to do. I hate being told where to go and when to be there. And so I knew I would not be a good employee of somebody telling me what to do. And so I wanted autonomy on my life, on my decisions, on my schedule. And because my dad was never present at any of my life events, I never wanted to be that dad that couldn't show up because I had to go to someone else's meeting on someone else's time. So number one, autonomy. Number two, income, finances. Obviously, growing up in the lifestyle that we did, we were blessed. But looking back now, we were definitely limited on what we could do, obviously, because of financial needs. I never wanted to limit my family or tell them no because we couldn't afford it. So I wanted something with a lot of financial upward mobility and trajectory. Number three was impact. I didn't want to be in a position to where I didn't feel satisfied or that I wasn't making a difference. So I wanted to be in a career where I could impact people. The fourth thing was legacy. I think about my dad's legacy, and as amazing as he was in the times before, the darkness came, I think now, and I think, unfortunately, I think his name's kind of forgotten by those that know him because he didn't really leave a strong legacy. And, this might sound selfish, but when I'm not here anymore, whenever that is, I want to be able to leave something that was bigger than me. And so having that kind of legacy and multi-generational view on what we're building was key for me. And the last thing is I wanted to love what I did. I wanted to wake up and work with people. People say, why did you love landscaping so much? And obviously, yes, it was the satisfaction of the job, but it was the relationships. I had landscaping clients that came out and told me their kids just got engaged, got called, accepted to a college, going through a divorce, lost their spouse, trials, happy times. I'm just the guy mowing their lawns, but I was there every single week of their life for 10 years in a row. And so the relationships that I had with those people, I knew I needed to be in a relationship type business. So to kind of wrap up that thought, when I had interviewed at this firm, it had checked all the boxes for me. And so I knew in that moment that this was the next step for me. And that's what then allowed me to sell that company.
Awesome, man. And so that step is you are a financial advisor. And
Yep.
so coming into that, what does that mean? What does that mean? Like, someone comes to you and says, like, what do you do for work? Like, what does it mean to be a financial advisor?
Yeah, I think everyone defines it differently, and there's a million people that are financial advisors. For us, where we're different is my goal is to help people alter the trajectory of their last name financially. And so taking a very holistic view through financial planning and meeting clients where they're at and not leading with products or transactions, but leading with the relationship allows us, in my opinion, to have a huge impact where we're extremely blessed to work with the most amazing people. But it's taking the values that I have as a person and finding and working with clients that have those same mutually aligned values. Because at the end of the day, investment accounts, insurance, retirement, taxes, all that's all great. But, when someone works with an advisor, in my opinion, they don't want to work with them based on the rate of return on the money per se. It is important, but they want to lead that relationship with the rate of return on the values that you mutually align upon. with that advisor and client. And so that's really our approach when we say, hey, we're a financial advisor. It's working with people and using the tools that we have at our disposal to allow them to accomplish the goals that are so important to them financially.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And so going in with that, you help people, you know, make plans to retire, build savings accounts, invest their money to make more money. Now, I want to dive a little bit into the fear that people have, right? And this economy, right? With the economy, with the stock market, with the president, whatever people may say, what is kind of your perception, about the US dollar, about, the crash coming and everything like that? What's kind of your viewpoint as a financial advisor when people are living in fear of what the economy is doing?
Yeah, I think as humans, we struggle from what's called recency bias, meaning we typically base what we think is going to happen in the near, short term, or midterm future based on what is currently or has most recently happened. And we forget what's happened in the past. So if I pulled up a chart here and showed you economic depressions, statistically, we'll see a market cycle 1 out of every 5 years. And so if we rewind 150 years, we've seen these times before. Yes, it's in a different flavor, if you will. COVID, the US dollar, but the actual financial impact on the net value of the stock market, taxes, the economy, etc. We've been in these positions before. We forget about 2007, 2008. We forget about 2018. We forget about 2000 and 2001. 1974. I could go on and on. And so I just tell people, it's the key to building wealth is, number one, maintaining a long-term vision on your money. But number two, it's removing emotion from that money. It's not about how much you have, it's about how much you keep through tax efficiency and unemotional planning. And so with our clients, we've been very blessed to where, knock on wood, my phone is not ringing off the hook every day with people panicking, because we emotionally prepare our clients that we will go through these times. And those that struggle and fail or lose money in these environments are those that make emotional reactions to what's happening. But if we can remove that emotion and realize that this is just how the economy works, we go through these ebbs and flows. And it's not to say that it's comfortable, and it's not to say that we're not being aware to what's happening. But this notion of we've never been through this before, I think is in my opinion, an uneducated comment. And you got to look to mainstream media. They're paid for views. Views come through panic. Imagine this, Brad. If I'm, let's say Burton, News Central, whatever, on local channel 5, and I come on with a very calm voice and I say, the economy is so amazing. The stock market's great. You're just going to click onto the next channel, throw on Bluey for your kids and get going. But if I come on, I say, wait, the world's falling apart. Things are on fire. There's hurricanes. The stock market's going to crash. The American dollar's going away. You're going to sink in with fear. And frankly, they make more money the more panic that they cause. And so in my opinion, the more that we can remove ourselves from those emotional reactions, the better everybody does with money. My clients that are very well off, none of them are worrying about these times. And that's not out of arrogance or ignorance, but they know that we've been through this before, and they've been through it before, and they know that those that come out on top are unemotional.
Yeah, dude, I love that, man. Because the whole thing we talking about is faith over fear, right? And what faith is? Faith is just action. Like, dude, you don't have to be religious to have faith, because faith is just belief, right? And that's like with me, man. I started, my company last year, year and 8 months ago, and I didn't get paid for my previous company, right? I'm still in litigation going on 2 years. The economy wasn't great, right? People would always say, "Oh, you shouldn't start a business right now, man. It's just the economy's not good. We're kind of in limbo, with elections next year. Don't start your company." And for me, bro, I never had that thought. I'm like, dude, this is what I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna freaking do it. And firsthand how broke I am. You know what I'm saying? Like, not only are you my friend, you are my financial advisor. And I'm like calling you. I'm like, yo, Kyle, I got any more money stashed? Yo, Kyle, I need some more money. Like, and going through all this stuff, though, But I have never lived in fear. I've always lived in faith and just understanding, look, if I work hard enough, if I understand where I'm going and have a plan and remove my emotions, I'm going to get to where I want. It's not going to be easy, but it's just putting fear aside and having belief, right? That cannot fail mentality, that I will not fail. I'm going to succeed and I'm going to do whatever it takes to be able to get there. So with what you've built right now, what's kind of instilled in you to have that, right, that no fail mentality? Because you have to build clientele, you got to build relationships, and then you got to build their portfolio. And obviously, man, there's a lot more years that you've been graduated, from your company, and obviously you've achieved success. So what keeps you going, man, with that no fail mentality to keep bringing on new clients, to keep taking their money during times like this and investing it for them in the proper way?
If not me, then who? If we're not willing to be in the trenches with people and to be that light and that unemotional guide that is literally sitting on the same side of the table as them and making decisions that they feel confident and proud of, who will? Number two, what's the worst that happens by showing up and working hard? If you're destined to fail, and I don't like that word, but if you're destined to fail, why don't you go out guns blazing? Why would you have your foot 50% on the throttle? No, you jam that sucker down 1,000%. And again, if you're going to fail anyways, well, go out guns blazing versus half-assing what you're going to do. And so I look at it as like, okay, us getting referred to our clients, people that are important to them, us calling on them to have financial discussions, us challenging their mindset and their preset beliefs and notions. What's the worst that happens? Well, the worst that happens by us doing that is we meet great people. We bring on the best clientele. We have wonderful relationships with them. We help impact their family, their lives, and alter their last name. And in return, they're blessed and we're blessed financially for doing so. So my perspective is, why wouldn't I show up every day? And to make a comment on what you said, about like the economy crashing, you can have an opportunistic mindset or a reactive mindset. Look at 2007, 2008. Do you know what came out of that? Airbnb, Uber, huge publicly traded companies that they were told, oh, this will never work. The economy's crashing. You'd be an idiot to start a business. I mean, I'd give my left foot. I'd give my hair to own a fifth of Uber or Airbnb and the values that they're at. But they came out of, Airbnb was founded in 2007. Uber was founded in, I believe, 2008, which if we go back, and I'd love to just be a fly on the wall and all the people that called those guys idiots and look at where they're at now, because they didn't let those things that they can't control be an excuse. The key thing to life, Brad, is you have to control the controllables. I can't control what happens on Capitol Hill. I can't control what is released on Facebook, Instagram, KSL, CNN, NBC, ABC. I can't control any of that. I can't control how everyone else is going to react, but I can control how I do. And so all I do every day when I show up with our team is I say, number one, what is in our client's best interest? Number two, how do we help them accomplish that mission? And number three, control the controllables. That's all you can do.
Yeah. No, dude, I love that, man. I get pumped talking to you, dude, because obviously, man, like we think a lot, right? We've always had that drive and ambition, man, that I think has always brought us together, dude. Because it's like I sit down with you and you always say, Brad, how you doing, man? And I'm like, good, dude. I'm doing this, and you're like, bro, let's go. You're freaking pumped. And then every time you call me, you're like, hey, man, how are things going? I'm like, hey, things are going good. And you're like, you got anybody you can send to me? Anybody that needs help with their finances? And every time I'm like, yes, man, I'm going to send my best people to you because we've built that relationship and trust. And so I appreciate you, man. And I love talking about your mindset and grind, but let's talk about where you're at today, man. How many clients you have underneath you, how big your team is, goals and things that you've accomplished and things that you're heading towards, man. Like, I want to talk about where you're at in today and the things that you've accomplished being a successful financial advisor. Because I've met a lot of financial advisors or have been reached out to, right? And none of them are like my boy Kyle Burton. None of them. I know none of them don't have the team that you got, that have the success that you've brought. I know personally that you're the fucking man. And not only that, man, you're my good friend. So I want to talk about your successes and where you're at today.
Yeah, we've been extremely blessed with those that we work with. And it's funny, to make a story come full circle. So the individual that called me when I was doing that landscaping job to do that interview, he's now my business partner. So we run KBSM Wealth Planning, Kyle Burton, Sawyer Monson. So that's a full circle moment for me that now him and I run one of the top financial planning firms. But we've been very blessed, and I think you have to be very careful when talking about success and realizing that, yes, it was you showing up, but we're not just successful because of us. It's because of the mindset and the value that we bring in those that entrust their money, their pest control services, and you guys, that it's a win-win-win. I look at our business as a win-win-win. The better we do for clients, the better planning we do, the better we do. And so everybody wins. No one loses in these environments. Because I think there is selfish success and unselfish success. And I don't want to be a part of the former. I want to be a part of the latter, the unselfish success. And so right now we have a team of 7. We have clients in all 50 states. Right now we've got 1,200 clients that we service, 1,200 families within KBSM. We built out a very robust financial planning team to where we have associate advisors that can service our clientele. I work closely with about 300 of those. And then the rest are serviced by our other lead advisors on our team. We were just recognized for 2022 in the Western United States as the top financial planning firm, given our tenure in the business. And so we've been very blessed with what we've been able to build. But we've always treated this opportunity as a gift, and we've never looked at anything was given to us. We knew that anything that we would have now or in the future is because of what we build or what we will build. And so we're very fortunate with who we work with and our clients. On a day-to-day basis, I'm sitting down with entrepreneurs, business owners that are absolutely crushing it financially. They're not calling me, Brad, because they struggle with money. They're not calling me because, they don't know how to invest. They've already built their wealth, but they want someone that they can partner with and align themselves with that allows them to focus on what matters to them, which is their family, their businesses, traveling. I had a client also say, my private plane. When they can partner with our team, we're able to really treat this as a team with the client. Think of it like a board of directors, to where we're sitting at the same side of the table with our clients and making decisions, but helping them multiply, whether that's from wealth accumulation strategies, tax efficiency on planning, estate planning, insurance planning, but really take the great planning they've already done before they've met us and help multiply that to the next level.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. Because what I tell people, man, is like perfect your craft. A YouTube video I put out was perfect your craft, perfect what you're good, and then hire the rest. Right? For me, man, I'm perfecting my craft in sales, in my business, and my success, and I'm perfecting that. And I have you to help with my finances, right? And when I have my hundreds of millions of dollars, I know that I have my trusted friend and my financial advisor, Kyle Burton, to take care of that, to tell me where to put things, to where to invest, to how to do it. And the one thing I really admire about you, Kyle, is you always have an answer, right? Because for me, this shit don't make sense to me, right? I don't understand the stock market. I don't understand taxes. I don't understand all these different buckets. You sat me down. You're like, look, we got this bucket, this bucket, this bucket. And with that, you're like, hey, this is what it means. And just understanding, man, you have perfected your craft, which I really admire that about you. Because, dude, you always know the answer. You always know what I need, and you're there to help me out. And dude, I'm so pumped to work with you in the future, with my sales guys that do really well and make a shit ton of money. Myself, my business partner, our business, like, dude, I'm grateful for you, man, and the success that you've achieved. And I wish nothing but the best for you, and obviously, for us together, brother.
Yeah, feelings mutual, bro. Feel very blessed to have you in my corner.
Yeah, no, I'm pumped, dude. So before we end here, man, what would be some words of advice that you would give uh, to someone young out there, right? That there's all this turmoil in the world, right? And we have a similar belief you can be whoever you want, right? What would your advice be to that younger person out there that wants to be successful but really doesn't know where to start or how to begin?
I think number one, you have to be unapologetically authentic to your vision and to your true self. We live in a world of comparison, and I think that is plaguing a lot of younger people. I see it. I see it in our neighborhood. I see it with my friends' kids, um, because everyone wants acceptance and they want to feel like they're proud of who they are because everyone else tells them, "Hey, good job." And the reality is that's not how life works. 20, 30 years from now, Instagram, all those things, Snapchat, post tags, TikTok, that stuff doesn't matter at the end of the day. But what matters is the life that you built, and you want to be proud of what you built. And so I think first and foremost, you need to do intense vision and mission planning. Have you sat down and written on paper what you want your life to look like in 10 years, then reverse that to what it needs to be in 5 years, then reverse that. What do you need to do over the next 12 months to get there? So I'm very religious, if you will, on doing vision planning with my team, with my clients, and with those around us. And with that vision, I won't let anyone get in the way of us accomplishing that. And what I mean by that is my family matters more to me than the opinions of someone who, frankly, if they didn't approve of what I was doing or didn't support me, that's not someone I want on my boat anyways. And so, for me, my circles are very tight. My circles are very strong because I want to be surrounded by people that want to see me win and will stop at nothing to help me to get there. And so being unapologetically authentic to your vision, I think, is the mindset you always have to carry.
Yeah, it's fire, man. I mean, dude, I got a lot of people in my life that have told me I won't be successful, talk shit on me, the haters, as people say. And it's like, man, I don't even give them the time or day, right? Because I'm myself. Like, I don't give a shit if you like me or you don't like me. I'm gonna be myself, and I'm gonna get out of life what I want. Now, I'm not perfect. I've messed a lot of things up in life, man, but I do know who I am and I do know where I'm going, bro. And just having that mindset of being unapologetic. But dude, I won't be stopped. You know what I'm saying? Like, I won't be stopped. I'm going to leave that legacy that you talked about, right? I'm going to leave that legacy behind of my name, my family's name. And dude, people are going to know who the hell I am, and I'm going to change generations. And just having that belief. But dude, it's not a belief, man. I know you're going to have it. I know I'm going to have it, and I know there's a shit ton of people out there that are going to have it because they're themselves and they're willing to go to any lengths to get it. So dude, I appreciate you being here, man, and keep killing it. And we're gonna continue our journey, man. And as we talk, I met you 8 years ago, right? And just in those 8 years, man, I've seen you grow and change like crazy. And for me, man, I hope you've seen the same thing, right? But I've also seen myself, grow and change, dude. So I'm super pumped for what the future holds. Having faith, right? Not listening to those people on the outskirts and putting our emotions to the side. But dude, I appreciate you being here, man. And I wish you nothing but success and happiness.
Thanks for having me, bro. Feelings mutual. And I always remember, if someone says you can't do it, all they're saying is they couldn't do it. So they don't have the belief that you could because they don't have the belief that they could. So if you ever hear that, that's a clear sign that it's time to move on to a new relationship.
Yeah, no, I love that, man. Awesome, dude. So I just stopped that, bro. So the recording